Peter Grill is the strongest warrior with a devoted harem who'd die for him. After being crowned the champion, stunning babes from all over the country came running to clap his cheeks and become his next mommy. With a plethora of options and outstanding melons to choose from, his blessed pursuit ended up becoming a cursed goose chase for his love and affection. The heroic champion walks into the buzzing arena filled with royal monsters and arrogant humans. The crowd was excited to witness the final bout between these two unstoppable contenders. The winner would go on to claim the title of Strongest Warrior. These two were giving it their all, and without further ado, the human, Peter Grill, proved once again why humans were the apex predators. After his victory inside the arena, he ran towards his waifu, but was interrupted by Mimi, a gorgeous ogre who wanted to harbor his seeds and give birth to his children. Weird, I know. Since he was now declared the strongest creature on Earth, it was extremely important for them to mate with him and produce powerful offsprings. I kid you not, this was not a laughing matter, nor was Peter willing to go to bed with a random person he met on the street. That's when her sister Lisa approached and insisted she was the mother of his kids and the muse of his fantasies. She refused to take no for an answer and demanded his body for the sake of experimentation. However, our boy was loyal to his betrothed and ran towards her. The beautiful Louvelia waited for him inside of the church, and these two held hands like longtime lovers. She was ready to break the news to her father and bear his child. However, Peter had a growing suspicion that she was too pure to even understand how babies were made. As he guessed it, she was completely oblivious to the idea of sexual intercourse. An untouched, pure damsel, what more can a righteous man like him ask for? Later that night, he went back to his room feeling debilitated and couldn't shake the idea of the ogre twins. Wait a minute, where did this diabolical demon come from? Oh boy, was she tempting. How did he manage to kick them both out? This man surely had balls of steel. Upon causing a ruckus, he had no option but to let them in and resist their temptation. He tried telling them to buzz off, but these ogres were proficient in the art of seductive warfare. He swore loyalty to Lady Louvelia and refused to sleep with them. However, they caught him dead to right, and before he realized it, they had successfully tempted our boy into spending the night with them. Oh, how glorious is the morning after a successful harvest! You ought to be both proud and ashamed, my friend, tears of both happiness and abasement. Before he realized it, Lady Louvelia came knocking at his door. Oh, shit. What were you going to do now? This spelled disaster for our boy, who panicked and stuffed the twins inside of the closet. They tried protesting this move, but were silenced and shoved like Amazon packages. Upon opening the door, he was fuming and told her how he was in the middle of a training session. How gullible can one girl be? She complimented his physique and announced the news of their engagement once their father approves. The twins looked on as Peter was head over heels over his wife. Even so, her father refused his hand in marriage and told him to buzz off. Ouch, that was quite harsh. Why do you have to be so rude? Don't you know he is human too? As her father started throwing a hissy fit inside of the courtroom, Lady Louvelia claimed she'd run away if he doesn't give her his blessings. Yeah, these two should elope. Her words hurt the king deeply and accepted their proposal with bitter remarks towards Peter Grill, who was left lamenting the day he was born. A feast was thrown in their honor, and everyone celebrated this joyous occasion. These two were deeply in love, but the thought of the twins kept haunting him amidst the celebration. Before he knew it, they came to the party to congratulate him and warn him of his duties to incubate them with powerful ogre babies. Come on, this man is about to get married. Cut him some slack. They wanted to go at it right in the middle of the party and tried seducing him right then and there. They weren't about to let down until they were pregnant, and as soon as Lady Louvelia entered the room, he hid them beneath the table. Now this was awkward. The king approached and insisted he give up his seat, which had the twins underneath, ready to clap at a moment's notice. What was he going to do? Hold up. Did he just refuse an order from the king? This man was asking to be killed. Luckily, Lady Louvelia had a strong hold on her father and strong-armed him into leaving. Oh wow, he dodged a bullet right there. The twins tried sabotaging their relationship and toying with his emotions. As she ran away to calm her father down, it was time to get things going, and you know what that meant. It's clapping time. There you go, another successful consummation. Not long after that, our boy stepped in bed with his betrothed and was looking to embezzle her melons into his corrupt institution. As he was about to land a strike, he awoke from his dream and found another desperate waifu. The landlord opened up the lights and found him fighting with what seemed like an elf. Vegan was a feisty gal who refused to take no for an answer and insisted to become his lawfully wedding bride. Our boy was lost for words and kept sweating. She tried explaining how their nation is in dire need of a warrior to protect them from their enemies. However, her explanation meant nothing to him, since he was already in love with Louvelia and didn't even find this pesky elf attractive. Ouch, that ought to hurt her feelings. Despite his harsh words, she tried keeping a cool face and put up a brave bravado. Imagine being told you're not worthy, and his ding-dong refusing to get up. Is there anything more embarrassing? I guess we now know what his type is. Big, squishy melons like the ogres. That's when the elf unleashed her magic and used a spell to curse his little Johnny. This was forbidden sorcery, and told him how he'd come begging the next day. I wonder what she threw at him. My guy didn't worry a bit, and continued the rest of his life in peace and tranquility. Elsewhere, Princess Louvelia and her troops were scouring the forest when they saw insane footprints. And there it was, the most terrifying monster to ever grace your screen. One of the scholars pulled out a picture of the monster and warned Peter of the imminent destruction of his loved one. Lady Louvelia was cornered inside a cave and was trembling in fear. The tentacles caught her off guard and started toying with her. She was about to give in to the temptation when the hero of the hour, Peter Grill, stepped up. He sliced the tentacles in a clean array of swordsmanship and rescued his betrothed from her unprecedented demise. His troops watched on in excitement as he put her to sleep and vowed vengeance against the behemoth. There was no shred of fear in him, and he launched into the air and sliced his limbs. In one clean stroke, he brought the monster down and impressed everyone involved, including his love. His genetics was admired by the ogre twins, who were super turned on by all of this. Lady Louvelia couldn't express her gratitude and had him lost for words. The crowd cheered on as these two shared a moment. Kiss already. Later on, he went to take a bath and clear his mind, but was bothered with a raging boner. Yes, little Johnny was harder than a Christmas tree after New Year's Eve. The elf showed up and took credit for the spell she cast on him. So that's what the forbidden spell is all about. She called it the eternal erection, cursed to roam the land with an insatiable lust. If not treated in time, it could even cause his permanent death. Peter started crying and begged for her mercy. The elf didn't hesitate to gloat and took the opportunity to insist his assistance with a personal matter. Yes, he had to hit a home run you-know-where. Just then, Lady Louvelia started talking from the other side and praised the beauty of the hot springs. Forget about the water. She was absolutely stunning. She started explaining how this village benefited a lot from this waters, and whomever consummated inside them would be blessed with children. Sounds like she wanted to test the experiment and asked him to make her a mommy. This was your chance, Peter, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Even so, little Johnny was about to explode and he couldn't handle it anymore. As such, he apologized to his fiancée and told her to postpone. Oh wow, she sure was a heavenly concubine. The elf didn't show any remorse either, and asked him to grovel beneath her feet. Quite the unusual fetish, wouldn't you say? Now that her goal was at hand, Peter was ready to take her on and clap those cheeks faster than the Olympic sprint. Attaboy. Another day, another successful capture. Meanwhile, the storm was brewing and the king was weeping the loss of his lovely daughter at the hands of a creep. What was this man up to now? He called upon Peter and announced a marriage contract from another nation. Wait a minute, is he trying to hitch him to another? Lady Louvelia stepped in and objected this marriage proposal. However, the king insisted it was a formality and had to show face with their allying nation. We all know he was trying to sabotage their relationship and provoked Peter into accepting this request if he was truly loyal to his wife. As obvious as his schemes were, Louvelia had full faith in her husband and accepted the challenge. She didn't even consider for a second that he'd betray her trust. They went to the beast folk, and the gluttonous swine welcomed their arrival in a disgusting manner. Peter knew all this was a trap, and vowed not to fall in it, no matter what happens. His reaction was disdainful, and couldn't even imagine going to bed with a pig. Preposterous. This was too easy for him. However, upon laying his eyes on Piglet, he was speechless, and the king left them both to connect. Oh, wow, she was really beautiful. I mean, god damn, the pig nation for the win. She started breathing heavily and acted super shy around him, since this was the first time she's ever been with a man. An innocent, adorable woman who has never known the touch of another man. Now this is starting to sound like something straight out of a fairy tale. The king and the pig hired a bunch of mercenaries to take him out, just in case the piglet failed to seduce him. However, our boy couldn't help but stare at her gorgeous figure and imagine all sort of naughty things he'd do to her. Who could blame him? She was truly divine in every sense of the word. Seeing as this was her first time, there was no pressure or expectation either. Soon enough, the rascals ran into the piglet and threatened to kidnap her, but they made a huge mistake standing up to the strongest warrior of the land. Peter wasn't about to let their disrespect slide and taught them a brutal lesson. As he was running away with his damsel, he couldn't handle her temptation and took her to a narrow alley. She tried making a move, but our boy wanted to take her out on a date first. After all, he must get to know the woman he's about to sleep with. Do you think he'd fall for the trap? As he addressed the king and her father, he refused their offer on the spot and told them to F off. Before he could leave, the king disdained his actions and insisted they spend the night in her room before they jumped to any conclusions. Oh wow, talk about a checkmate. A seductive checkmate. The piglet dressed up for him and got ready to seduce the hell out of him. Her warmth and arousal was induced manually by the king via an aphrodisiac, and these horrible heathens had everything planned out. The piglet was beautiful beyond words, and our boy couldn't fathom his eyes. Aside of Lady Louvelia, she must be the prettiest girl in the entire show. Peter tried refusing her offer to incubate, but she pushed him to the bed and started pulling off her techniques. Despite her alluring aura, he talked her down and made her think she was ugly. Well, that actually backfired. Here he was now, locking lips and making her knight. What just happened? Will he resist? Can he resist? What will Peter Grill do now? Piglet unleashed her massive aura and successfully clapped cheeks with the poor hero. The king pulled a number on him, and now his marriage was in shambles. Piglet got up and confessed how terrific last night was. She was ready to announce their relationship when Peter begged her not to. He started pleading with her and even used reverse psychology to convince her to take a stand. She was but a puppet of the higher-ups, and if she didn't keep this a secret, she'd spend the rest of her life as a prisoner and a slave. Well, that was quite the speech. Afterward, the piglet went up to her father and denied everything that happened. She claimed Peter was a perfect gentleman and resisted her temptations throughout the night. Even so, she asked for a favor and asked to stay with Peter and head back with him. Oh wow, who knew she was a mischievous witch? This girl was quite intelligent in the ways that matter. She started giving off dark vibes and vowed to take vengeance on the higher-ups who controlled her life. As a result, she was willing to carry and bear his child. Later that night, she cooked him a scrumptious meal while the twins looked down upon his new waifu. The elf slapped back, and Peter was left in the middle trying to calm his harem down. This guy is literally swimming in baddies. He tried acting fair and demanded they get along, since he loved each one of them differently and wanted them to accept his marriage with Lady Louvelia. Wait a minute, is this man seriously trying to get hitched whilst keeping appearance with his harem? The audacity of Peter Grill knows no bounds. Piglet was ready to accept them all and was willing to share Peter with everyone. The elf started throwing a hissy fit and had to be held down. The ogres wanted to set up a hierarchy, and that's when they summoned an angel to test their lust meter. Whomever arouses Peter the most will be deemed his favorite mistress and will be given a head start. They were in agreement, and the twins started off with their best move. The elf tried dressing up, but failed to rank up. Soon after, Piglet walked by, and her lingerie drove him crazy. It was now a fierce battle between the twins and Piglet, since they had the best melons in the country. The landlord gave him some wine to enjoy the moment, and they all got drunk real quick. As they celebrated their victory, the twins tried seducing him to sleep with them, and Piglet chipped in as well. He tried screaming at them, and insisted Lady Louvelia needs him. However, They weren't willing to listen to his complaints and flashed their gorgeous melons at him. Our boy had no option but to succumb and gave in to the temptation. As expected, he spent a wonderful night with his harem gang and fulfilled his wildest desires. The ladies were sore, but fully satisfied. However, they didn't like the idea of sharing him all at once and decided to set up a schedule. They continued to argue over the calendar, and everyone wanted more time with him. They didn't even give him a chance to make a case and made it seem like an open orgy. His little Johnny was super tired, and he finally got the chance to take a break from the multiple rounds and wanted to visit his fine lady. He went to the capital and laid his eyes on the gorgeous diva. The innocent lady had no clue and wasn't aware of the schemes he was pulling off behind her back. This guy was surely taking advantage of her. After a great date, he took her to a fine restaurant and tried acting like a real gentleman. Why do I feel like something bad is about to happen? As they interlocked and shared a moment, Lady Louvelia was teasing him like crazy, and they ran into the ogre twins. Wait a minute. This was outside of the schedule, and Mimi was acting like a complete monster. He tried disciplining her and took her to the bathroom. However, this spelled trouble since she committed a quickie in record time. As he went back, the elf came along and ruined his date. He dragged her out back, and that's when Lisa showed up. One by one, they were draining all the vitality he had, and soon enough, Lady Louvelia would catch on. How gullible can one woman really be? He walked her back home, feeling drained and exhausted, and bid her good night since his tank was exhausted. At this point, he might even lose his manhood permanently. Piglet came by while he was bathing and decided to go for another round. She asked to wash his back and tried making everything erotic. She continued to touch him gently and offered up herself to him. As usual, he was unable to resist her seductive gaze and unleashed his frustration upon her. The twins and the elf came by and started arguing since everyone broke the treaty. What was the point of setting up a rest day if they weren't going to respect it? Are they seriously trying to kill him? Peter was growing frustrated from all the clapping and had enough. His frustration was noted, but the ladies weren't willing to listen. He had to run away for dear life and pray to the heavens for a refuge. The strongest man in the nation fled and cried like a baby. An ogre came through and started giving him some words of advice. Peter explained the situation to him and how he was still in love with Lady Louvelia. The ogre started speaking of someone he loved and told him to follow the pursuit of happiness at any cost. Even the heavens bestowed them with their grace. Elsewhere, Lisa was contemplating her life when Peter interrupted her quiet time. He tried confronting her about her royal lineage, but she denied the allegations and considered herself an ordinary civilian. Meanwhile, the warrior ogre, Spartacus, came by looking for the crowned Princess Lisa. The receptionist was blown away while Lisa took the opportunity to go another round with our boy. She wasn't going to let this one on one opportunity slide and pulled him in. He gave in to her temptations, and as he was clapping her cheeks, Spartacus opened the door and interrupted their friendly reunion. He was in shock and became absolutely livid. Oh man, Peter done messed up this time around. Spartacus launched at him, but was no match to the strongest warrior of the land. Hold up, was Peter using a banana? Lisa came around and told Spartacus to cease this foolishness. It seems Lisa was his crush since childhood and wanted her hand in marriage. He groveled and pleaded, but despite his incessant request, Lisa refused his offer flat out and told him Peter was the only man she loved. This coming from a princess, how shameful. She then challenged him to a fight if he wished to mate with her, and that's when Spartacus called upon Peter in an official duel. This was going to be wild. Peter was ready to throw the match, but that's when Lady Louvelia came to watch, and Lisa used her as ransom. If he lost the match, all his secrets would be revealed, and this left him no choice but to fight to the death. Spartacus apologized before the battle and unleashed a massive aura which would have scared off any mediocre warrior. Despite his warning and the crowd's discouragement, Peter had no option but to fight back. He won with a single strike, and Lisa didn't hesitate to knock his spirits down and gave him another chance to fight her. She gave him a week, and that's when Spartacus begged Peter to train him for the duel. The elf and Piglet insisted on helping, since they could get rid of Lisa if he won. They spent the rest of their days in gruesome training and turned Spartacus into an absolute monster. Beware of Frankenstein's curse, my friend, beware. It was finally time for the lovers' quarrel. Spartacus launched the first strike and was on equal footing with Lisa. However, upon observing her gorgeous melons, he lost concentration and lost in an instant. Peter was the only one who understood, since he could relate. Upon waking up, Peter apologized and the secretary came knocking, since she had a crush on the big guy. Peter took the opportunity to hook them up and at least bestow upon him a consolation prize before sending him home. It's the least he could do after that humiliating defeat Spartacus faced. The big monster rebuked his offer and started acting like a sore loser. However, the tiny secretary stole his heart with her unusual riz and made a man out of him. That's the power of lust, I tell you. Now that Spartacus was gone, Lisa wasted no time heading back to her real lover. She cornered him to the wall and made him an offer to become king. Just then, Lady Louvelia came running and made his day with her words. She asked him for assistance, and they rode into battle like the adorable couple they were. That's all for Season 1. Stay tuned for the next part.